And welcome to AFL Rewind, a look back at all things arena football, brought to you by Phenom Elite. I am Tim Capper. I got the full crew with me this time around. Ben Fraternale.
Sorry.
Jeez, and John Stark.
Actually, it's the pollen. Allergies kicking up.
All kidding aside, though, obviously the main thing is that we want to make sure that everybody is safe. Please, this is just a strange time. Hopefully, it's just a blip in the history of our lives. And I've said, guys, many a time that, at least around here and to my friends, it's like, we'll look back hopefully in March and April of 2021 and look back and say what a messed up year 2020 was. But, at least we have stuff like this to look back on and hear about. The different stories and from the players and executives from the Arena Football League, and it's our pleasure to bring the stories out to the masses, right?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that the AFL stuff in general in the context of COVID, because it's like, we were talking about this the other day. The idea that the season would not have happened, and the AFL would have folded regardless of the lawsuit. Now, like now, it's just like a predetermined thing that happened. It's obviously every sports league is affected by this, but the AFL was already on such thin ice. Like this definitely would have been the dagger, and it's just very strange when you think of it like that.
Yeah,
I won't. Yeah, it's like as you're saying, if the league had still been around, would this have been the death knell? We just don't know. We just don't know. It is what I guess. Did it help in a way? I mean, to guess that it seems strange.
Well,
to say,
in the simulation, the AFL was supposed to be folded, so the sim will always provide alternate sort of realities for us, and unfortunately, this was the decision that was made by the computer.
So do you think the Arena Football League would have started doing e-games from Road to Glory on the internet or TV?
If someone could have figured out a way to convert the composite to HDMI, then possibly.
Oh, I know. If we could have gotten this from 720 to 1080, we'd be smooth sailing with this. But alas, we're in SD now.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody who listened to the last episode. We love getting the feedback that we're getting is just phenomenal. And again, as I've said, I think almost every episode, we're here to get you guys the stories from everybody from across the Arena Football League. And Ben, we have an interesting one this episode. It's a gentleman who wasn't around that long in the AFL, but he did make a name for himself. Isn't that right?
That's right. We have Sir Malachi Jones, recently knighted by the Royal Empire of Arena Football history. A flash of brilliance that Malachi exhibited in his short stint in the AFL, but certainly if his career had continued in the league, he would be known as one of the greatest to do it, because he, upon hitting the field for the first time, literally hit the ground running. I mean, immediately became an iconic figure in the league and someone who was very clearly like a next level type of player that was presumably headed to the NFL, and we'll see that could very well still happen. He had an incredible Arena Bowl championship winning season last year, and basically there was no shortage of accolades that were heaped upon him during his stint. So we got to know him very well. Obviously, we did a documentary, Malachi, and told his story, and I'm excited tonight to ask him a few more questions about his time with.
This is a guy who, even though he started off in another one of the indoor leagues, he came in basically as a Rookie of the Year, and he just, as you said, all those accolades all the way through. He was in the major, a major award winner for the 2 years that he was in the Arena Football League, and we can only imagine what's going to be coming next. So. John, what's one of your, before we talk with Malachi, what's one of your favorite memories of Malachi in the 2 years that he was in the league?
Well, it's hard to talk about if anyone remembers that goose. When Ben and I traveled up to Albany to work on the documentary that Ben was working on for 50-Yard Dash, and just really spending some one-on-one personal time with him, and getting to know him better as a human and as a person, and instead of just what he did on the field. I think that was definitely my favorite memory and or interaction with him.
Yeah.
It's pretty unusual. Like, the context of Malachi Jones is so unusual, just for me personally, and for John too, because we were together for so much of this.
Yeah.
The fact that the very first game he played was such a major, important game for the league, and so it was documented so thoroughly, and like he had such an iconic moment in that game, and then from then on, the Empire were such a major story in the league. I feel like I shot like 90% of his games. I mean, like I don't think I've covered an individual as closely as Malachi, just because, I was doing the documentary, I was shooting a lot of Empire games, seeing it through from the first game to the final game, what ultimately ended up being the final game, was really unusual and awesome, and like what a great person to be following like that. I mean, I'm sure we'll find out in this interview coming up, but he's a really, really great person and just one of the best personalities in the league, and extremely kind. And sort of just being along with him during that journey was super surreal and awesome.
Yeah.
To add to that real quick, sometimes I wish that when I see other guys from the league like Joe Powell or Jake Payne saying like, hey, who wants to play some Xbox or some Call of Duty? Sometimes I wish Malachi was doing that too, because I want to do that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But he's notoriously Animal Crossing only, so we just have no choice.
Got to get that Nintendo friend code, apparently.
Yeah. God damn.
Either that or oh no, they don't do the Xbox thing anymore, where we could get him to play a game of Road to Glory, could we?
Oh man, no. I wish. That's a real bummer. I mean, the AFL by 1 year missed the like online next generation platform.
That's true.
Yeah.
Which would have been sweet to get a PS3 game, but what are we going to do?
I know. So,
well, we have time. We should just do that now.
Yeah, sure. Why not? We'll ask Malachi this question also when we speak with him. Do both of you think that if he had been in any other city, he would have been as big of a star as he was in the 2 years in the AFL?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at like Fabian Guerra, for an example,
good point.
I would argue, despite being on one of the worst teams in the league that we've seen in many years, he was still like the star besides Malachi, probably, in terms of like hot young talent. So I think the Albany narrative was so strong, it made it like way better, and especially because they won the Arena Bowl the second year. But yeah, I think he still would have stood out. If he had Grant Russell, I don't know. If he had Grant Russell, he had Tommy Grady throwing him the ball. So like,
that's true too.
Well, Grant Russell did throw all those touchdowns to Fabian on his birthday.
I know. I mean,
that's true.
Not knocking Grant Russell necessarily, but
yeah. I was just thinking back, like that was a game, and I can't believe we were there. Wow.
And all three of us being there too, just to see that game. It was just amazing. Want to remind everybody that if you want to make any suggestions to us on who you'd like to see on any future episodes of the podcast, you can email us over at aflrewind@arenafan.com. All the emails will go to John, Ben, and myself, and we'll be able to see if we can get some of those people on some of the future episodes. This episode, we have a gentleman who had made a name for himself in only 2 years in the Arena Football League. The guy came away with accolades in both years. But I think the easiest way to describe this gentleman is Arena Football Champion Malachi Jones. Hey, Malachi, thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me, man. It's great to hear from you guys, and great to have the opportunity to be on the show.
Let's start off about your early career in football itself, Malachi. Everybody who knows about your story knows that you've come from a large family of, your siblings playing sports and stuff like that. All your family actually playing sports. When it came to football, since many may not know, what got you into football originally?
Just the fact that my dad played. For those that don't know, my dad played at the University of Notre Dame. Back in the late 80s, was part of that last national title team with Lou Holtz, Rocket Ishmael, all those guys that the list goes on from that roster. And then my dad spent some time in the NFL. He was drafted by the Steelers in the 91 draft, and then spent some time with the Detroit Lions. And then also the Winnipeg Blue Bombers of the Canadian Football League. So I grew up in a football household. You know, he transitioned to representing athletes after his football career. So I remember growing up, and we would have guys prepping for the pro days and the combine that would come stay with us, come hang out, because my dad represented them. So, like I said, just grew up in a football household, a sports household, and it was great.
Was football a sport that you were coaxed into, pushed into, or was it something that you always wanted to do based on that your dad had played football before in the past?
It was always something I wanted to do, just because, growing up and just seeing, all the people my dad was connected to, like I said, the Rocket Ishmaels, the Ricky Waters, the Jerome Bettises. I mean, the list goes on. And just being around those guys and hearing their stories and just kind of just being a fly on the wall when they would all get together and hang out and kind of reminisce, it was something that I wanted to do. My dad has a bin full of jerseys just from guys that he's played with and guys he's represented. I just fell in love with it. I also appreciate the fact that every time there was wear your favorite jersey to school day, I had a plethora to choose from. So, but yeah, just like I said, growing up in a football household and, literally every weekend, especially when Notre Dame was playing, my dad was glued to the television. And like I said, man, it was just something I wanted to do, something I knew would make myself happy because I just loved it as much as my father and my siblings as well loved it. So, yeah.
Were you always a wide receiver, even as a kid?
No, so I remember rec ball league. I was number 11 playing right tackle.
Hell yeah.
And then I would switch over and play cornerback. And then in middle school, I played running back all throughout. And then I transitioned like full time into playing receiver 8th grade. And then from that point on, that was basically the only position I played. In high school, I spent a little bit of time playing DB my sophomore and junior year, but priority position was definitely wide receiver.
Why did you choose App State to go play ball in college?
Just because I felt it was the best fit for me at the time. I had an absolute pleasure on my official visit, just going up there and hanging out with the guys. And, Coach Moore at the time, who was the head coach, is one of my favorite coaches to this day, and just everything that he brought to the program, everything that the program was about, really stuck with me. They run the spread offense, 4 wide, which is something that obviously as a receiver is a dream come true when it comes to playing in an offense. So, and then just the area itself, man. I grew up in the suburbs, and Boone, North Carolina is absolutely beautiful. Campus is literally in between 2 mountains. So it was quite the change of scenery for me. But, I mean, I absolutely fell in love with the town my entire time up there, man. So.
Was App State the only place that had interest in you, or just so for those who may have not known, and we don't know either? Could you have been a Buckeye? Could you have been a Tiger at Auburn or a Crimson Tide, or did any other university reach out to you?
Yeah, so I actually, going into my senior year, I did not have a single offer, and going after my senior season, did not have a single offer, and it wasn't until the first week of playoffs that Presbyterian College gave me the first offer, and then the other ones came. The other schools off the top of my head, I had 7. I know I had 7 total offers.
Okay.
I want to say it was App, Presbyterian, Georgia Southern, William and Mary, Louisiana Monroe, Samford, and Chattanooga. And then I had a preferred walk-on opportunity with the University of Notre Dame if I elected to do that.
Okay.
So,
interesting. So you could have possibly played where your dad had played.
Absolutely. And I thought about it, just because my brother TJ was there at the time as well. So I always thought it would be great just to link up with him again and play. But ultimately, I wanted to relieve my mother of the financial burden of having to pay for school. My father had passed away right before I went into my senior season. So I didn't want that unnecessary pressure of having to worry about finances as far as college goes on her. So, and then obviously, like I said, Appalachian State was great. They rolled out the red carpet for me. They really made me feel like I was at home. And like I said, I'm very pleased with my decision to this day.
When you look at your career as a pro, obviously, I mean, first, if anybody has seen your highlights, any of your highlights from App State, they know why you are as good, and I think Ben in general will agree with me, as good as we see you, because you are a very good wide receiver. What when it came to the Falcons in 16, you didn't make the roster. I mean, I'm looking here. Were you preseason fodder like some players can be, or did they actually give you a chance to try to make the team for the Falcons in 16?
Yeah, so in 16, I signed a free agent deal.
Okay.
And a lot of people thought it was like a tryout, such and such, but no, I signed a legitimate like free agent deal. I got a signing bonus,
nice,
which is why I was excited to see what was going to happen with Atlanta. But shortly after rookie minicamp, they decided to release me, and it was something along the lines of they wanted like slot receivers, like kind of like that built, obviously being 6'2", 6'3".
Right.
They were very like pleased with what they had. I think they had like Mohamed Sanu and obviously Julio Jones and a couple bigger bodies already. So they were focusing more on that slot shifty guy. So, but yeah, I mean, unfortunately it didn't work out with the Atlanta Falcons, but obviously very happy and blessed to even have the opportunity to sign an NFL contract straight out of college. So. Were
you when it came to the 2016 draft, were there hopes that you would get drafted, or did you feel that you weren't on the depth, within the depth chart in order to get drafted within was it 6 rounds for the NFL draft now, or whatever it is?
7.
7? Yeah. I mean, was it a disappointment not to get drafted?
No, I mean, I understood the situation I was in. I think the pro day that I had kind of crept me into the possibly later rounds. I definitely knew for a fact I was going to go like highly preferred free agent. But yeah, man, I knew exactly the situation I was in. I knew I only could build from a great pro day performance. And with the pro day that I had, especially with the 40, I remember I ran 4.47, and that was a number that a lot of teams weren't expecting to see. So,
right.
But yeah, no, I was just, whatever opportunity was presented to me in the NFL draft, whether I was drafted or free agent or tryout, I was just going to be happy with the opportunity to get a chance to play.
Okay.
And that's all I was concerned about.
In 2017, you started your indoor football career with the High Country Grizzlies of the NAL.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's very close to where App State is. Is that right?
It's literally on campus.
Oh, okay.
So we played in the basketball arena.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Literally played in the basketball arena, which I thought was great because I always wanted to shoot hoops in there. And I ended up scoring touchdowns. So
was it?
And you were working at a marketing firm at that point, right?
Yes. So after I got released from the Falcons, I went through a stint of workouts that summer and nothing materialized. And I kind of started, once I kind of like heard the phone wasn't ringing anymore from my agent as far as like feedback goes, I started prepping for my off the field life and had the opportunity to work at a marketing agency in Alpharetta, Georgia, White House Advertising, and for about 6 months. And it gave me the opportunity to really dive into what I want to do when I'm done playing, which is graphic arts. And that's what I went to school for. So, but yeah, prior to my stint with High Country and going back to school at App, I was working in Atlanta, or at Alpharetta.
How would you consider the NAL? And I'm not talking when it comes to player wise, but I mean, what was your experience like playing in indoor football for the very first time?
It was very unique. I would definitely say that, being a part of my first year playing arena football, being a part of a new league, it was very exciting because I didn't really know what to expect. I had never ran in motion the way I was doing prior to it. So I definitely saw it as a challenge that I wanted to take like head on and make the most of it. But I absolutely enjoyed it, man, just because I had the opportunity to come back to the place that I played my college ball at, and it drew a crowd. A lot of people I stayed in touch with from App, whether it was fans, professors, administrators, former teammates, coaches, you name it. And it was just nice to kind of just be back. I felt like I was in college again, like all over again, just because I literally was playing exactly on campus. I was going to school in the morning and then going to games and practice in the evening. It was a great time though.
Okay. You did very well, obviously, in 2017. You were the NAL's Offensive Rookie of the Year. Being that it was your first year in professional football, what were your thoughts on getting that prestigious award in the NAL?
I was very blessed, man. Very pleased with the fact that the league awarded me with that. I always say it's a team effort. It's a team award, and I'm just an individual recipient. Obviously, I wouldn't be able to do the things I do without the quarterback getting me the ball, the offensive line doing their job, and then obviously the receivers doing their part along with the defense. So it was a great feeling, man, just because it was my first taste of professional football, and I knew what I had to do going in to get the opportunity to possibly go back outside. Mm-hmm. And, I just felt like I did everything that I could on and off the field. I was very, very pivotal in the community. I love being in the community and things like that, man. So, but yes, like overall, I was very pleased and very excited. And yeah.
How did you end up going from the NAL to the AAL? For a short period of time, the Atlantic Havoc. I don't follow the other indoor leagues as closely as I did the Arena Football League. Did High Country still exist in 2018, or is it something you're given a different opportunity for that very short period of time that you were signed with the Atlantic Havoc?
Yes, so the Grizzlies did exist the following year. At that time, I was in contract talks with Albany and a couple other teams, but the issue at the time was they didn't know if the CBA was going to get passed, and then obviously having 4 teams, they didn't know if they were going to be able to make the league run and things like that. So I had basically made my decision that I'm going to the AFL, and then I was just waiting back for confirmation. Okay. So in the meantime, the Atlanta Havoc, who are now the Carolina Havoc and is in the American Arena League, my former head coach of the Grizzlies, Josh Resinalo, who now coaches the Cobras over in Greensboro in the NAL, he was the head coach, or he was helping out. I want to say he was our offensive coordinator. He's the offensive coordinator. Okay. And we had a great relationship. And I told him, man, I was like, look, I'm only 30 minutes from practice. Like, I'll come play with you guys until it's time to go. And then if I don't leave, then I'll just play the entire season with you guys, no problem, because it was the opportunity to stay home and, be around my family and have my family come see me play. So that's the route we did. And after the first game, I remember Coach Keith and Coach Moss texting me saying, hey, we're a go. And I was released immediately to go to the AFL.
You're talking about, it's very interesting to hear that you had your initial sights on, and you're contacted about playing in the AFL. Who originally contacted you about playing in the AFL, and then was it always going to be the Albany Empire, or had another team reached out to you? I mean, I know there were only 4 teams at that time, but had any other team showed interest in you?
Yes. So actually, the Brigade reached out to me in January of 2017. Yes, 2017. But I was already enrolled to finish my degree, so I obviously couldn't leave. I didn't want to leave school again. So, but after that, they reached out again. The Valor also reached out, and then the Empire. I was going back and forth and had really good conversations with Coach Keefe and Coach Moss, and I really appreciated the energy that they brought to every conversation, and just the fact that they wanted me to come there. And then I just kind of fell in love with the idea of playing in Albany, just with everything they were saying, being the only professional sports team in the area, a smaller market. So we wouldn't have to worry about, the NFL teams, the NBA teams, the MLB teams. Like, the community really got behind it. I did my research with Eddie Brown and those guys when they were playing, and you could just see how electrifying the atmosphere was. So, I mean, after that, it was really a no-brainer, man. And like I said, I could not be more happy that I decided to go to Albany.
I think the fans in Albany, too, were. I mean, I think everybody across the AFL was also, because we were saying, and I'm going to ask you this now because I'm curious to know what your thought was. I mean, obviously, as a football player, you want to do your best wherever you're going. In your honest opinion, Malachi, if you had gone to any other city, do you think you would have been able to do as well as you did and succeed as much as you did in Albany?
I mean, it's a good question. I think at the end of the day that I would have applied the same work ethic, like you said, and the same values that I had and brought it every week. But, I tell people all the time, I could not have written a better script for my time at Albany. I mean, you get, Coach Moss, who's been in arena football for 30 plus years, win championships. Coach Keefe, electrifying personality, always energized. Like, he's won championships. You get Tommy Grady, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in arena football history. As I get this guy for my first and second year, had the opportunity to play with Joe Hills, Colin Taylors, the Ryan Caves, the Moki Ruffins. I mean, the Michael Bensons. I mean, literally like playing with some of the best guys who have ever played indoor, man. And literally like I said, I have to pinch myself sometimes. Literally, I mean, some of the throws that Tommy was making when I was playing as a rookie, it was ridiculous. Like, and like I said, it's just, I'm sure I would have had success wherever I ended up, but the amount of success that I had and the things that we were able to do as a team in the community, like Albany was by far the best place for me.
You coming from indoor football, I have to at least ask you this, coming from indoor football into the Arena Football League game, were there any changes or anything that you had to get used to from playing in high country versus playing in Albany and the AFL?
Yes. The skill level, and no knock on the NAL, but the skill level was a step up in the AFL. You have guys like James Romaine, Varmasoni that are guarding you that have been doing it for years. And you have very active jack linebackers like Terrence Moore, Eric Gooseby, Alvin Ray Jackson, those type of guys. And just like I said, just the guys that are very talented in that league. And obviously you have to bring your A game. And then also think that you had to be even more meticulous with your route running and like entering at certain angles and understanding what the defense is trying to do. Because I remember early on, especially in that first game against Philadelphia, there was times where I was like, wow, I've never seen this coverage, and I've been playing the game for a year, and things like that, So I think at the AFL level, they were able to do a lot more, and that's something I definitely had to get adjusted to, and I wanted to do it quickly. So,
okay.
And you did. I mean,
yeah.
You adjusted. Was there anything that you experienced in the AFL? I mean, having played in numerous leagues, outdoor, indoor, that you liked better than other leagues, or something that you might like adapted to the outdoor game at all?
One thing I loved about the AFL and then just Albany itself, man, was just the support we got around town. I mean, literally. We would do appearances, but we would go to Blaze Pizza, which was one of our sponsors, and there's always somebody saying, hey, like, can't wait to see the next game, or, oh my gosh, like, you guys had a great game, or Malachi, I can't believe you caught, those 2 catches you caught over the wall were like awesome, and things like that, man. So that town really was devoted to the team. And, like I said, 10,000 plus every home game. You couldn't ask for a better place to play at, just because, like I said, it's so electrifying. You make a big play, you make a big catch, and the crowd's going nuts. It just fuels the team. And, I think that's why we won a lot of our games. Just because the environment, I felt like, was so hard to play in for the opposing team, just because, like I said, it was so passionate, so electrifying, man. And just overall, I just loved being in that community and just doing the things that we did as a team, just because they were so appreciative of it. But we also wanted to, as players, to know that we appreciate the fans as well. And we definitely wanted to give back.
So speaking of the arena, did you and the rest of the team ever feel that playing at home was a serious advantage? I mean, if we look at the stats, you guys won almost every home game through both years. But did you actually feel like it was an advantage?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, literally, the crowd's going. There's been times that the opposing teams couldn't get a signal in, or maybe they couldn't get a check in because the crowd was being so loud. Obviously, with the new turf and things of that nature, and the facility being as nice as it was, it was just a great place to play in. You felt comfortable, and all that good stuff. And then obviously, just being in the facility, and we had the luxury of practicing on our actual field a majority of the season. So you definitely get a feel for like, okay, if I run this route into the corner and I go over the wall, like I'll be fine. Like I know how to like gauge it, or I can jump over this part of the wall and not hit certain parts of the bleachers where with other teams they had to practice. Awesome. Yeah. Like, and with other teams, they had to practice like outside or in different, facilities and things like that because the arena wasn't always available. But I would say for a solid 80% of the time I was in Albany, the arena was always available for us. We had our meetings there, our practices. And just like I said, when you can practice on your field in that surface and in that environment, literally all the time, it definitely gives you an advantage.
And yeah. After that, sorry, John.
It's okay. I was just going to say, I guess I could see that, especially planning when and when not to, or trying to avoid the bleachers. Because, for example, I had visited and spent some time at the Washington Valor facilities, and they were just practicing with inflated balloons for the most part. I don't know what the correct term is, but yeah.
I was wondering, like, after last season, we've seen teams and situations that the AFL has been in where like a team hasn't come back and, after a championship win, and there's always like this uncertainty, like, are they going to get their rings? Like, especially this time because the league went under, and I was so happy that you guys got your rings. I'm curious, like, did you know that was going to happen? Did you doubt that was going to happen? What did it mean to you that you actually got it?
Yeah, no, so after when the news broke, obviously, like, you have no idea what's going to happen. Do you think like the players are still going to be accounted for when it comes to rings? Because I remember, I want to say DJ Stevens, one of the teammates from Albany this past year, he was part of that San Jose team that won. Yeah. I forgot which year it was, but they didn't end up getting rings, and I felt bad. Oh, it was 08?
Yeah.
So I was like, I feel bad for those guys because now they're going to be part of two instances where now they don't get rings. Yeah. And, that's a terrible feeling. But yeah, no, when the news kind of broke that the ownership was going to take care of it, man, that's why I will always consider Albany home, just because it wasn't just about what I did on the field or what we did as players on the field. Like those ownership guys did their absolute best to make sure that we were accounted for while we were playing, and then also off the field. They made an effort to meet with us and kind of just hang out with us outside, at community events and appearances and things like that. So for like Dan Nolan and the rest of those guys to really step up and did what they did, we could not have asked for a better group of people to play for, a better ownership. Like I said, those guys are great, and we thank them from the bottom of our hearts for the rings.
Where do you keep your ring? Do you wear it often, or do you have it in one of those IKEA detolf with spotlights on it?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I have not had a chance to show off my ring due to the current circumstances with the coronavirus. So right now, it's sitting in its case, but the first opportunity that I get, I will definitely wear it. And if I ever go back to Albany for any reason, it will definitely be worn.
Nice. That's cool. Obviously, in 2018, you made a huge difference, and it just showed by them awarding you with the Rookie of the Year in 2018. So you're now a back-to-back major award winner. Also, besides Rookie of the Year, you also won AFL Wide Receiver of the Year. To be honest, Malachi, did you think that you would make that much of an impact, not only necessarily with the players, but also with the people who voted you in on these major awards?
I mean, it's, going into it, obviously you work hard and you want those kind of accolades, but, it's all kind of like in due time. I thought I was going to have to work my way in and kind of, like I said, keep my head down, work hard, and I knew the accolades and all that great stuff would come. But for it to happen in my first year, I was definitely surprised, just because, going into that first game against Philadelphia, I wasn't really playing. I want to say I was the fourth or fifth receiver on the depth chart because we had so many like great vets. Joe Hill, or I'm sorry, not Joe wasn't there yet, but we had Colin Taylor, Doug McNeil, Greg Carr. All those guys who have been well established in the Arena Football League. So I thought my rookie year, I was going to get an opportunity to really learn how to play the game. But I also knew, like, when the opportunity was presented, that I was going to take full advantage of it. And, I'm so glad that I was able to. And then a lot of people don't understand, like, obviously my play was great on the field, but, when you got a guy like Joe Hills that's literally attracting 3 DBs every time he goes deep, and I was able to catch the check down and just happen to go 40 for the rest of the touchdowns, man. I appreciate guys like that, like the Colin Taylors, who drew attention. And obviously, being a rookie, nobody really knowing who I am, they kind of was like, okay, we'll let him go, and then we'll take care of Joe and Colin Taylor and all those great guys. So, and then obviously Tommy putting the ball exactly where I needed to be literally every time that the ball was in the air. Definitely made my job very easy. So, but yeah, just like I said, man, I attribute those accolades to my teammates and my coaches, just because, like I said, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I was able to do without them.
We mentioned it, I think mentioned here a few times, but we want to know what you thought as a player going into that very first game, because you were mentioning about the Philadelphia game. There was so much hype for the very first game, for the return of arena football to Albany for the first time in almost, basically in 20 years. You're going to have Eddie Brown there. You're going to have Antonio Brown there. And just the return itself. What were you thinking as a player going into that game about what was going to be occurring? Because obviously I know players can try to separate themselves and get into game mode for a game. But being that there was so much pomp and circumstance for that game itself, Malachi, was it easy to stay in game mode, or it was like you were like sort of peeking over and just seeing what was happening with Eddie and Antonio?
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like as athletes, we do a great job of kind of separating the noise. So I know guys, obviously, during the week, we would hear all these things. And like I said, being in the community, people would say, like, oh, my gosh, I can't wait to go to the game. Can't wait to see Eddie Brown. Right. We haven't seen arena football since I was a child, like all that great stuff. But, yeah, I think we did a great job of just kind of like separating the noise. But obviously for a guy like me, who was new to Albany and new to the AFL and things like that, obviously, I had the opportunity to I wanted to soak it all in, just because I had never played in that environment. And just to know that what they were able to do back when they played with the Firebirds and all that great stuff, obviously as a player, as an organization, you want to replicate it. And, you kind of just keep all that stuff in the back of the mind. But obviously when we came out the tunnel, and I remember looking up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's not an empty seat in the house. Like what is this? Is like really, like this is arena football. Like this just isn't like another league where people just come in and watch the game. Like people really love the brand of football that was played in Albany. So, but yeah.
And I had to ask you, because I think all of us have talked about it before, because all 3 of us were there for that very first game. What was your reaction to the crowd? Because John Bennett and I will always say that that's probably one of the loudest crowds that we have heard in an arena football arena in a long, long time.
Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah, no, nothing but chills. Literally, I just remember like being out there and, like I said, soaking it all in. But literally, like the crowd, like right before kickoff, and we got the music pumping, and everybody's jumping up and down. Got the shakers and the towels going, all that great stuff. It was literally like a movie. And just looking back on it, man, it was just such a great feeling to be like, you know what, like this is something that I can definitely get used to. This is something that I can definitely like would want to be a part of. And like I said, Albany did such a great job just with how everything was done. And like I said, I could not be more happy that I decided to go there and play. But yeah.
Now we have to at least ask, because obviously 2018 did not finish the way that you had hoped, and I'm sure a lot of Albany fans did not either. What was your reaction when? And obviously, we know anything can happen in football on any given day, but just be honest, how devastating was the loss to the Valor, knowing that you were this close in going to the Arena Bowl, and considering how the playoffs were done that year, and losing by that few points to move on?
Oh, it was extremely devastating, just because we didn't even prep for that. Like, it was literally like, we're going to go in here, handle our business, and we're going to host the Arena Bowl. Looking back on it, it proved to us that it doesn't matter what your record is on any given day, you can win a football game. Mm-hmm. And, that's definitely something that we took as a team, and it just kind of like marinated on us the entire off season.
Okay.
And then for the guys that came back, and then for when I had the opportunity to come back, I mean, obviously the hashtag unfinished business, we saw it everywhere, and it was a motto that we took to heart. And we knew that we had the team to make it to the Arena Bowl, and not only make it, but win it. So, but yeah, it's all a learning thing, man. You have the opportunity to go through life, and, you win some, you lose some, but it just made the 2019 championship that much sweeter.
Yeah.
And having that opportunity to play once again in front of our fans and then win in the fashion that we did, it was a great feeling. Are
you a player that has a long memory? Because there's something like a loss like that, is it, because they always say, some players will say, well, it was that was last week, we're now moving on the next week, but, it's always in your mind. Something like that throughout your football career, have you been able to forget the ones that you don't want to remember and focus on something else, or are they always back there?
I think they're always with you, but you gotta, as an athlete, you have to be able to kind of like censor it. So like, for example, like every time we played the Valor in 2019, I remember I caught the ball and I got tackled like 2 yards in front of the first down marker.
Yeah.
And I remember like, this was it. Like that was the game. The horn went off, and literally like everybody was just like in such disbelief. So I knew for every time we played the Valor, I didn't want that feeling again. And then it literally just kind of like stuck with me in the back of my head, but not to the point where it consumed me and kind of had me play out of character or anything like that. So, but yeah, I definitely feel like you always hold those type of experiences close to your heart. But if you do it right, you use it as motivation. And then it's just always a constant reminder, kind of like, even when you're up, if you're up a couple possessions, like, no, like they were able to come back and beat us a year ago. So let's keep the foot on the gas and like keep it going. And then obviously in 000s on the board, we can relax.
Yeah.
So
obviously from what you did in 2018, you made a name for yourself, and you got, some eyes perked up in the NFL. You were signed by the Chicago Bears. How did that come about? And how was the transition back to the outdoor game for you?
Yeah, so like you said, I received the opportunity to play with the Bears. It was absolute huge blessing. It was something that I was striving for since I started playing arena football, which was an opportunity to get back into the NFL and play, and have the opportunity to compete and go through a training camp and all that great stuff. So, but so after the season was over with, I want to say it was like 4 days later, I know Coach Moss and Coach Keefe were reaching out to teams along with my agent. And, obviously Matt Nagy being an arena football guy and having a lot of arena football guys on his staff, Coach Fury and Chris Jackson was also up there at the time. Those guys gave me the opportunity to come in and work out for them, and then, killed the workout, and it led to a contract, man. So I was extremely happy that happened. And like I said, just extremely blessed to have the opportunity to finally put on the uniform and like be in the locker room with those guys and play at that level and all that great stuff.
So glad to get out of that dang time travel machine.
Where'd you go?
I went back to the 80s to grab some of that good sports merch from my favorite defunct franchises. I spent my life savings on that machine.
You bought a time travel machine to buy sports merchandise?
Yeah, gladly.
You could have gone to 503 Sports, right? The website?
Yeah, no, I didn't think of that at all.
Yeah, they sell all sorts of throwback sports merch from leagues like the World Football League, XFL, UFL, and the Arena Football League, several others.
Shoot.
Yeah, they sell hats, shirts, even custom jerseys from all sorts of vintage sports teams.
Oh, man, I spent like a lot of money on that time travel machine.
Well, look, listeners of AFL Rewind get 10% off their first order by using the promo code ArenaFan at checkout. That might help you out.
Yeah, it does.
Go on over to 503-sports.com and get your merch today.
Do you know anyone who wants to buy like a overpriced time travel machine?
No, sorry, I don't.
The Arena Football Hall of Fame has returned, and we want you to become a part of the family. Introducing the Arena Football Hall of Fame Patreon. Whether an All-Star or a Hall of Famer, our reasonably priced tiers each have their own exclusive perks. Early access to the AFL Rewind podcast, honoring a selection committee member, and much more. Help us build a Hall of Fame we'll all be proud of. Head to patreon.com/AF Hall of Fame to join. 2019, the opportunity to play in the new AAF. What made you switch to a brand new league? Because obviously, with the stuff that we saw for you for the AAF, you were centered on quite a bit. I mean, it's some of the videos that we saw. It seemed like you were the leader for the Atlanta Legends. How did your contract come about for the Legends and joining the AAF?
Yes. So Brad Childress, who was an offensive assistant at the time with the Bears when I was up there for training camp, he became the new head coach for the Legends. So I remember I was actually in Albany and I got a phone call saying, "Hey, this is Brad Childress, our coach Childress." I'm like, "Hey, coach, how you doing?" All that great stuff. And he was like, just want to let you know I'm the head coach of the Atlanta Legends. And I remember he was on the phone, the general manager, and Michael Vick was on the phone. And I was like, whoa, Michael Vick's on this call? What's going on here? And literally he was like, yeah, I want you to be a part of our team. And it was a no-brainer for me because at the time, I think it was $250,000 for 3 years. The money was looking really good. And then obviously the opportunity to play at home. Yeah. The practice facility was at Milton High School, which is 5 minutes from my house. And we met maybe 15 minutes from my house. I mean, literally could not have asked for a better place and opportunity to play. Like I said, stay at home, be close to home and play for the home team. But yeah, just, being a hometown guy, I remember going to the front office and just telling them hey, if you guys need help with anything, marketing and, anything of that nature, I'm your guy. Just please don't hesitate to call me. And that's something that the front office staff really appreciated. And I still keep in touch with some of those guys. And but yeah, it started with the uniform reveal and kind of ran from there. And I was lucky enough to be a team captain and all that great stuff. So it was definitely a fun time. Playing with the Legends.
Was it any different playing with a brand new league, or did that not really enter your mind? Because sometimes you start with a new league and there are certain issues. Obviously, we know what would happen to the AAF, but did it just seem like normal football operations to you?
No, absolutely. I think the Alliance League did a great job of putting a product on the field. As players, you don't really hear too much about the stuff going on behind the scenes until it actually happens, but. Right. Up until that point, we were playing professional football with, guys that were very capable playing in the NFL. We had coaches who were very capable coaching in the NFL or had coached in the NFL. And like I said, it was very professionally ran, especially in Atlanta. Just from everything we did, from the living arrangements for the guys that lived out of town to how we conducted meetings and practice and things like that. It was definitely something that I appreciated. Because like you said, you never know how a new league is going to start out. Right. And the front office staff, the coaches, the management, all for the Legends in my opinion, did a wonderful job.
I think the big question now that we want to ask after the season was cut short for the AAF and they suspended operations, I'm sure all three of us want to know is, were you originally at the end of the AAF season, had the league not folded, were you still going to be coming back to Albany?
So it's definitely something that I wanted to do, just to obviously come back and play and all that great stuff. But I realized when I signed my contract, it was a 3-year deal.
Okay.
So I was not going to be able to play with Albany no matter how much I wanted to and no matter how much I tried to convince management and things like that. But yeah, no, up until we actually stopped playing there, I wouldn't have been able to play with the Empire for at least 3 years.
Okay. But as I said, I guess good thing can come out of a league folding. You did return to the Albany Empire. I mean, once you, I would imagine the first call you may have gotten after the news broke that the AAF had folded was, I'm sure, either it was Coach Keefe or somebody else in the organization, right?
Oh yes, Tommy Grady was the first guy to reach out. Yeah. But yeah, no, they. Literally, Coach Keefe, Coach Moss, reached out immediately as well, and a bunch of the guys, Colin Taylor and all those great guys. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a no-brainer. I already knew where I was going as soon as the news broke.
Yeah. And obviously 2019, a very, I'm sure, a very memorable season for you, because I know we talked about it earlier with the rings and stuff like that. But one thing I at least want to ask about too, because it is part of your indoor career, is you were lucky enough to be part of a documentary that was filmed by Ben through 50-yard dash. What was your experience, and what was your first reaction when you got the idea from Ben that he wanted to make you the center point of a mini documentary?
Yeah, no, first of all, and I just want to say real quick, Ben, thank you to this day. Every time I see you, I'm going to say thank you, because you did such a wonderful job with that. And just telling my story, man, I could not have asked for a better person to tell my story in the fashion that you did, man. So once again, thank you. Me and my family, thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. It was such a great experience doing that with you, and I appreciated that you opened up like that, and helped promote it, and I just felt like it was the perfect synergy. The fact that stuff ended up getting on ESPN was just the perfect icing on the cake.
Yeah, man. No, it was awesome. But yeah, I remember when I was approached about it, I was kind of caught off guard. I was like, I've been in the league for like a year, and there's guys there's guys that have been playing for 10 years that don't have documentaries. Like I saw, obviously the one he did for the Empire State from when we came back, and then the TT Tolliver one. I was like, oh, like this guy is awesome. Like I would love to have an opportunity to do a documentary with this guy, and then the opportunity actually came. So. But yeah, no, I was more than happy to do it, just because, like I said, I was a fan of Ben's work and just the things that he was able to do, and all that great stuff. And obviously just having my story told, is something that I think, it's a great story. I think, a lot of people who are kind of like in my shoes, just kind of like going through the path that I did, I just want to provide them with like a little bit of hope, man, just knowing that if you continue to work hard and keep your head down, stay focused, and keep the Lord strong and faithful in your life, man, that you can accomplish a lot of great things. So
what I really have to know, and so how he has been as a director.
Ben he needs to be doing bigger films, man, because he did not provide me any headaches. It was literally like, all right, Malachi, we're coming this day after practice. Boom, boom, boom. I remember we sat down in the middle of the field, and he asked me a variety of questions, and none of them were unexpected. None of it was off the wall. I mean, literally, very professionally ran. And like I said, Ben did a wonderful job, just with conducting the interview and things like that. And obviously the finished product was awesome.
Yeah. And obviously for the first time, Malachi on a drone shot. Hey, who would have thought?
Yeah, flying the drone inside the stadium. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, even to this day, for me, and I know we're going to the where you are currently, but when I knew how special you are as a wide receiver, Malachi, and being where I am located and where you currently are in your football career, I wanted people to know specifically about this guy, Malachi Jones, who I'm hoping will make a name for himself in the CFL. So what did I do? I linked Ben's video of his documentary, and I said, this is the guy that you need to keep an eye on. So that's, if it wasn't for you, and then wasn't for Ben asking me to do what he did, I wouldn't have been able to show the fans now, this guy, this new wide receiver named Malachi Jones. So
it's funny. It's like you make something like that. It is a time capsule of your career to that point.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, well, he wins the Arena Bowl. What do I got to edit that onto the end? Now he's going to the CFL. I guess I could do an update.
Yeah,
we'll have to do a sequel one day.
There you go.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's a part 2 in the making, man. That's coming. So just have your phone ready, just call me when you're ready.
Yeah,
but like you said, man, it's something that obviously, the product itself was great, but like you said, I can show my kids that 10, 20 years from now and be like, your dad was kind of cool back in the day.
That's awesome. I love to hear that.
Yeah, man.
If there is a part 2, I'm flying next time because I am sick of hitting geese. No more.
Oh yeah, you're right.
No more hitting geese.
Obviously in 2019, yeah, you ended up your first championship, an Arena Bowl champion. Got your ring, as we mentioned before. You were also graced with being not only the wide receiver of the year, you also were graced with being the offensive player of the year. I know when Ben and I were talking with our year-end awards, we felt you were at least a contender for the MVP. But now, 3 years in a row, Malachi, you've come away with some major awards. Are you the type of player, and I've going to ask you this before, but are you the type of player who lets stats and accolades affect who you are as a player, or does it does it make you a player who just wants to do even better?
No, I think I don't even worry about the accolades, man. I think what I take pride in is just coming to work every day and making sure that I'm being the best player I can be on and off the field for the organization that I'm with.
Yeah.
My dad used to always tell me, like, just do your best, play as hard as you can, and the accolades and all that great stuff will come. If you're worried about the accolades, if you're worried like, oh, like I didn't get 6 catches today, or like I didn't get my 100 yards, like you're going to be consumed with it to the point where you're going to lose focus.
Right.
So I definitely just, like I said, I just go out there and play as hard as I can, try to do my job to the best of my ability. And like I said, I've been in some positions to where the league and my peers have felt that I was deserving of the awards. And like I said, I'm very appreciative for those people. And like I said, it's a team award. I'm just an individual recipient, man. So, but yeah, that's my whole mentality when it comes to that type of thing.
Now, I can tell you this, and I know, Sadie, you're not a big guy when it comes to accolades and stuff, but I at least have to mention, because you were talking about Joe Hills before, at the end of the 2019 season, Malachi, you had at that time, you were the second longest active streak for consecutive games with a touchdown at 24. If I'm not mistaken, I think you had a touchdown in every single game that you started, because again, you had 24 straight games in the regular season with a touchdown, and that's not a slouch at all. I mean, considering that's hard to do even today in pro football.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing that. I remember Coffee Jones tweeting that, and I was like, oh wow. Like I didn't even know like I was, on that level as far as just like the second active streak, because obviously like, when you play with a guy like Joe Hills,
yeah,
and you see his resume, I don't even remember, it was like 107 or 110 straight games. Like that's just so like, for me to be like, I can't believe that, 24 is nothing like to a guy like that. But yeah, I mean, it like I said, I didn't even really know, I kind of just was like, oh wow, like that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Just to see. So,
bring us through the Arena Bowl. Bring us through the Arena Bowl championship in that game, because it was as you said, this year was unfinished business to get to the Arena Bowl. To sort of get to the place that you were stopped from doing from in 2018. Tell us about your day going into the Arena Bowl, and what was your mindset?
Yeah, so I remember. So Colin Taylor and I were roommates. So I remember I woke up, and every game day I wake up like around 9, and I'll get my oatmeal with peanut butter, and then I'll take a little bit of a nap. And I remember driving to the field with Colin Taylor and just like, like we're here, like. We got to handle business. And I just remember like in the back of my head, like there was guys like Tommy Grady, Colin Taylor, who haven't won a ring.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of those guys on our team. So I knew at that standpoint that I didn't care what the stats looked like. I didn't care how we got it. I just wanted to make sure that those guys got a ring because they were so deserving of it. So I just remember like just going into it like I would any game. But also, like I said, at the same time, just soaking it all in, because, you never know when you're going to get back to another championship atmosphere, another championship opportunity. So, but yeah, man, it's something that I will hold tight to my heart for the rest of my life. And, it'll be something I'll be able to share, years down the road, with my teammates and like I said, family members, my children, all that great stuff, man. So, but yeah, it was definitely a day to remember.
Yeah, all you have to do is just go to YouTube, and then the game's right there, so you'll be able to relive it over and over again. So that's that's the good thing about technology today. So, and if you can, tell us about the locker room afterwards, because fans, they only were able to see what we could on television after they awarded the trophy and the championship belt, but. Tell us a little bit about, if you can, about what the locker room was like afterwards, and what may have been told to you by the coaches or Coach Keefe.
Yeah, just obviously the locker room was ecstatic. We got the champagne going. Everybody's going crazy, and it was just finally that moment where everybody took a deep breath and like exhaled. Mm-hmm. The entire season, we were so focused on what we needed to do, and we never wanted to let up. And at that moment, when Keith came in there and gave a speech and told us how proud he was, it was like all of the team and the organization just gave a huge exhale and just knew that we could finally relax. We could finally have the opportunity to celebrate a championship and just look back on everything that we had been through as a team. And just, like I said, it was mind-boggling at times, some of the stuff that has happened just with some of the games we were playing in, and some of the outcomes and all that great stuff. But yeah, man, everybody was just everybody was ecstatic, especially those guys who had never won a ring, man. I was just so happy for those guys, and like I said, it was a great night.
Tell us a little bit about Coach Keefe. We know he is very a lot of energy. The dude has a lot of energy, and we've seen some of his pregame speeches. I remember the one that Ben shot for the Empire documentary at the beginning of the 2018 season, and his speech right before the very first game. Tell us a little bit about Coach Keefe. What type of head coach is Coach Keefe?
He's a player's coach. Definitely somebody that Coach Keefe reminds me of a Dabo Sweeney. Just somebody that guys naturally gravitate to, just because he has so much energy, and he's relatively young, so he can still there's times that he's gone there and run practice or run routes just because he could do it, and he was still able to move pretty well and all that great stuff. But no, like I said, definitely a guy that cares about his players, cares about his team, and just puts his best effort and his best foot forward, man. Keith, literally, there were times where I remember the DBs would meet for what it felt like hours on hours. But at the end of the day, those DBs were always prepared and always ready to go, especially in the later part of the season, because Coach had threw so many reps, so many clips at them that they were ready to go. I mean, literally, anything that was thrown at them, they had already seen it and they were ready to make a play on it. So, I mean, I love Coach Keefe to death, man. Anything that man ever needs from me, he just has to reach out and call me, because I wouldn't be where I am without his help and a lot of people along the way, man. So, but yeah, Coach Keefe is a great coach, and I'm glad that we got him another championship.
Tell us about the parade itself. I mean, it's I don't remember the one in '99. I wasn't able to attend that one. But tell us about the reaction from the community for that the parade, and then the joining down near the spot where they always seem to have the great block parties right near the Times Union Center, and being able to give your accolades to the crowd for your championship.
Yeah, no, it was great, man. Just to, like I said, go out there and finally kind of experience that, just because as a player, obviously you never get to go to the block party, but you always hear how awesome the block parties are. So, obviously we wanted an opportunity to kind of just enjoy ourselves. And I thought they did a great job just with how they ran it, having given us the opportunity to stand on stage, and a couple of guys got to say a few words, and just seeing the support and the reaction of people in the crowd, man, was second to none. I was mad that the weather didn't quite permit with us. Yeah. It was cut a little bit short because literally a storm, I remember, came out of nowhere, and just started dumping rain on the parade. But overall, like I said, it was a great experience. I'm so glad we had the opportunity to interact with the fans in that kind of way. And like I said, give that community, give that town a championship.
So what was your favorite, the trophy or the belt? I have to ask.
Oh, the belt for sure. Like, I remember like trying to put it around my waist, and obviously I'm not the biggest of guys, so it like just slipped through. But like guys like Ryan Cave and the offensive lineman, they were able to put it on like they were a WWE wrestler, and it looked so. I was like, man, I wish I could do that. But the belt, man, I thought it was a great addition. You know, don't get me wrong, the championship trophy itself was awesome, and I didn't know it was that heavy. It's actually very heavy, and both the belt too is very heavy. But yeah, man, I definitely like the belt better of the two. Yeah. So.
Obviously, it's funny you said raining on the parade and stuff like that. Obviously, there were dark clouds coming for the Arena Football League. Where were you, Malachi, when you heard that the Arena Football League was not going to be returning in 2019? And had you heard any rumblings before you got that call?
So I was in Albany, and I want to say I was in my apartment, and I remember the night before my girlfriend was saying, hey, there's like going to be a big meeting tomorrow. Like, you know, so I was expecting good news. And then I remember she texted me and said, hey, we all just kind of like lost our jobs. And I was like, wait, what? Like, so literally came out of left field. I mean, I didn't really hear too much about it prior to that, hearing it from my girlfriend. And then obviously seeing it like on Twitter, and then having it be confirmed. But yeah, I literally was just hanging out in my apartment, and like I said, I got that text message saying that the league was done. And I was in disbelief, just because the league was like on its way up. You know, we went from 4 teams to 6. Yeah. The product they put on the field was great, and everybody seemed like they were on the right path to bringing it back to what it was in years prior.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's what Ben, John, and I have said too, is that we felt that 2019 probably was one of the best seasons that we've seen in quite a long time, and it was just an utter shock, I think, to everybody who really followed and loved the game as much as everybody did, for the head coaches, the players, the fans themselves. So from there, I guess as we mentioned before, bad things turn into good things for you. We're going to your next part of your career. With the demise of the AFL, when did you get the call about the CFL? Obviously you knew about the CFL before, but when did you get the call about it, and how many teams were looking at you to come up north?
So I was contacted shortly after the season about the CFL, and I didn't necessarily want to commit to anything yet, because I had heard there was some interest from NFL teams, and then, so I just wanted to give myself the opportunity to at least see those through before I made any type of decisions. And then obviously getting drafted in the XFL, I had a decision to make. Right. So, but yeah, no, I ultimately chose the CFL, and I can't wait for the opportunity to go up there and play. I definitely feel like that it fits my style of play, just from transitioning from the Arena Football League to the CFL. And then I've always been a fan of the CFL, from what my dad used to tell me of his days in Winnipeg. And then just I had a bunch of teammates, playing the CFL. And I've always been a fan of it. And to finally have the opportunity to go up there, man, I was very happy.
Yeah. And obviously the story is like some firsts of every movies, it's to be continued for you. Obviously with your next part of your career, we wish you nothing but the best. I'm looking forward to seeing you up here, and I can't wait to meet you at mini camp, the rookie camp, whenever that does occur. But I think one of the things we want to make sure that we do ask you though, is that when it comes to the Arena Football League, Malachi, if you were to speak all to the fans and to the coaches and to the players that you played with over these past 2 years, what's one thing that you would want to let them know specifically?
Just that I will forever love the AFL, and I will forever miss it, just because like I said, I would not be where I am today without the AFL, period. I'm still in disbelief, just because I know it's not coming back, at least not like it won't come back within a year or so or however long it is. But, for those who are out there that, are feeling the same way that I am, I just want to say that the Arena Football League provided a guy like me an opportunity to continue to do what he loved to do, which is play football. And at the end of the day, I am as most happy as I can be on a football field, and to have the experiences I've had, to have the success that I've had, championships and all that great stuff, man. It's just such a great feeling, and it's surreal. But also, I'm so glad that I have met the people that I have along the way. You guys, the Colin Taylors, the Tommy Grady's, the Coach Keefes, all the fans that still keep in contact with me and who are, always asking how I'm doing and things like that. Ultimately, I feel like in life, when you make these relationships and you kind of just have the opportunity to get to know people and just kind of sit down and have a minute with them and just hear their stories and things like that, there's nothing better in the world, man. And to have the opportunity to go out there and play in front of the fan base that we had and just, like I said, be a part of something so special. I never thought I was going to play arena football growing up. I remember seeing it because the Georgia Forest was a thing here when I was growing up. But to actually play the game and literally experience the things that I have, I would say by far it's the most fun I've had professionally. And I hope that arena football one day, the AFL can get back to where it was in years prior. And hopefully something that I could possibly be a part of down the road, man. I would love to see a reboot and be a part of it in some capacity, man. But yeah, like I said, love the Arena Football League, man. I will forever miss it. And but yes.
We can say too is that even with no AFL, you will always be an Arena Bowl champion, Malachi. And as everybody is, whether you are a fan, a player, an executive, you will always be a part of the Arena Football family. Because I've heard, because I didn't play football, but I know that you guys can become very tight knit groups, and you make friends for life. And as I said, you will always be a part of the Arena Football family. So we really appreciate. We really appreciate what you did, because you put a lot of fun into the game, we really did watch. We loved watching you play, and again, we wish you nothing but the best in the future.
No, and I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you guys having me on the show, and this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, man. Just with arena football being you're so interactive with the fan base, and you have the opportunity to really get to know your fans and things like that. Mm-hmm. It was a special feeling just because you actually feel like you're getting to touch people. They don't just see you play on the weekend. Like you have conversations with them. I remember hanging out with some of the kids. I would go to do events and things like that, man. So definitely those type of experiences are second to none. Something that I will always forever cherish and with my time in Albany, man. But but thank you for everything you guys have done. And like I said, thank you for having me on the show.
Ben, John, anything?
No, I just appreciate it. I mean, I think when we look back at this last season, yeah, it was the last season, but it was an amazing run. And I think everyone sort of agrees in the AFL world, there was no better way for everything to go out. If it did have to go out, at least it was with, an Albany, an OG team, sold out crowd. Just the vibe of that was so fundamentally AFL. And I was so, glad to be a part of your journey along with these 2 seasons, documenting it, and I'm sure we'll make that sequel soon.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And also thank you, John, for those photos, man. Those photos were awesome, especially with the one looking at the championship banner. I remember looking at that prior to the championship and just envisioning our banner up there. So yeah, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. I'm glad that photo ended up foreshadowing. And thank you for, coming on here tonight and speaking with us and all the fans as well. It's great. And you're a great friend. And I hope we always, all the 3 or 4 of us, always keep in touch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Maybe not Tim, but
I think Malachi will get tired of me after rookie camp. So
yeah.
Well, look, anytime you guys want to come to a game, just let me know.
That was an amazing interview. I mean, even though the gentleman was only in the league for 2 years, it's great to get such a detailed story about his football career, isn't it, John?
It is. And, he really spared no expense. He told us everything.
Mm-hmm. And it was actually great to hear. And obviously, we do thank Malachi. Ben had to depart right after the interview itself, and we want to thank Ben. And obviously, John, it was great having you guys, having a team back together on the podcast. And obviously, I'm looking forward to having you guys join us again. On the podcast whenever we get somebody else that is of interest and you guys want to chime in. That's finding out about the history of the Arena Football League is what we're going to be doing. So it's the more questions, the merrier, right?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. It was great to have the boys back together, and we were, vibing. Everything was smooth. It felt like we were throwing it back to AFL Tonight last year.
There you go. Just want to remind everybody, if you don't already know, if you wanted to listen to the archive for AFL Rewind or for some of the old AFL Tonight shows, you can do so. There are multiple places where you can find us. You can look for us over on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and the audio version over on YouTube. But again, John, really appreciate your time, and obviously hearing Malachi's story. It's and everybody else that we've spoken with so far on the podcast, they've all expressed the exact same thing, that they are going to miss the AFL, and they're hoping somehow, someday, that the league will be able to come back in some shape or form. Oh
man, how could you not? Really?
Yeah.
I'm hoping to.
Agreed. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or any suggestions on who you want us to have in future shows, you can email us at aflrewind@arenafan.com. But again, thanks for joining us, and we'd love to hear your feedback. So for everybody here at the AFL Rewind podcast, for Ben Fraternale, for John Stark, I'm Tim Capper. Watch the rebound off the net.